Well, here we go. This will be the third flight of the Mini 3 Pro with the newest firmware update on it, 1.1.6.9, I guess, and 0.0100, and we'll see how she goes. We can get up in the air here. Here we go. Okay. We're flying at a location. We're on the back deck of our lodge. Taking off from there, we're headed due south. We're going to go over our property there and head out for a short flight. The first two flights that day that I've already posted did real well. Had a little problem on one of the signal strength tests where when it went into return to home, the screen froze and for a good 30 seconds or more, had no video, didn't know what to do, even though it sounded like it was coming back home. You know, the RTH was beeping, or the controller was beeping at me. So that is about the only glitch we had with it. The range didn't improve at all. It stayed the same, or maybe even a little bit less. So, but it is what it is. Like I said, not near the range that my Mini 2 has, but what can I say? It's got a little bit better camera, so we'll be able to live with that. So we're going to take a flight out south here a little ways, not going too far on this one. We did have some connection issues on this one because of the trees that are around us there. You can see the clouds, the shadows of the clouds on the ground. We're shooting 4K 60, no ND filters, and it's probably about 10:30 in the morning. Temperature, we're in the mid 80s during this flight here. So most all of my last flights have been very warm in the upper 80s to upper 90s. And I haven't had any issues with, as long as I don't get into sport mode and overtax the motor. Haven't had any issues with the Mini 3 Pro handling the heat at all. One thing you will notice sometimes if you stop and you're hovering doing a point of interest or something like that, where the drone is just not going very fast or not getting enough air forced through the front of it, that it will tend to maybe give you an overheating warning. But if I'm on a regular flight like this and not stopped, you know, and hovering and talking about something for very long, even on 98-degree days, she didn't overheat. So she overheats more when I do a firmware update. Still, I know they've corrected a lot of that, but if I don't have a fan on it, it will tend to overheat if it's got a large update. You know, if I'm doing it outside, anywhere where it's warm temperature, I usually try to get a small fan blowing on it, and if I do, there's no problem. As you can see, the picture quality is exceptional. I mean, it's for the size camera it's got. Very, very good. I love the shadows of the clouds. You can see them drifting across there. That fascinates me when you see that kind of stuff. So we're going to go for a little ways up here, not too much further, and then we'll loop back around. I love looking at the designs these people have in their fields when they do their planning, and a lot of them just use it to get around the edge of their fields. You know, you can tell how they do their patterns and stuff like that. It's kind of neat looking. Almost all the fields have been hayed already around here. Some have soybeans in them. A lot of winter wheat and ryegrass I see in the fields, and even a little bit of alfalfa in some of them. So anyway, we'll fly out here a little ways and see what there is to see. That's an old abandoned manufacturing plant or something there. So anyway, I already started to lose signal because of the trees surrounding me. So did a quick return home, and I'll take over the flight here in a second. As you'll see when she starts there. I think I've got it right now. And we're going to veer a little bit here to the left, I believe. We're headed north now. And see that pause out of the return to home, when you take it out of return to home, it stays there for a little while before it decides that you've got control of the sticks anymore. So it's nothing instantaneous or anything like that. So we're just taking a look at this beautiful green field and a little, looks like a horse barn, maybe a little corral down there. Pasture land, nice small lake over there on the left. Once again, the scenery is just beautiful. I mean, the pictures on the Mini 3 Pro, I'm shooting 4K 30 frames a second on this one. I've got nothing to complain about, even without ND filters. You know, I'm not really concerned with motion blur on trees and stuff when I'm flying over. You know, I use ND filters more when I want to get motion blur and water, moving water, and things like that. You know, where you can increase the shutter speed and then slow it down in post and get some pretty neat effects. But this is just a bright sunny day, and the lens does good enough for me. You know, it's compared with the contrast on the Xeno Mini Pro, I think it is over sharpened. I think their HDR is much sharper than on the Mini 3 Pro, and it's almost too sharp for me. This is about where I like it. So you're looking at this lake here. You can see where the lake has started to turn over, especially in the shallow section. See all that moss on the top? That's from the temperature inversion. These lakes, sometimes you lose a lot of fish in these lakes that aren't deep enough where the water actually turns over and doesn't get enough oxygen to the fish because of the temperature. And a lot of fish die when it gets too hot like that. So we're taking a look. Looks like this guy's got some nice piers, you know, sit down and fish on and swim off of or whatever you want to do. So pretty nice little lake. See the reflections of the clouds in the lake. Really pretty calm day. Nothing to speak of for winds. That's for sure. Looks like he got a little, done some mowing there. I don't know if he's putting a little bit of crops there or what. We'll come around back this way and, well, that's pretty. Head on back here in a second. See where we're at now. Yep, we're not very far from where we took off at. So we'll head up this way, and oh, here's another little pond there, and here's the same thing going on again. You can see where the moss and everything has just grown over part of the lake, and man, I love fishing, and it makes fishing tough. You can't throw a line out without dragging in 10 pounds of moss and everything else, algae. So there's a pretty shot off of the distance. The gimbal seems to be pretty straight today without much wind blowing on it. So there's our takeoff point right there. So we're going to head on back. We're headed due east now. Across these fields. Usually I see some deer out in these fields and turkey, but on these warm days like this, they like staying in the shade more. You know, if you want to catch them, you got to be out very, very early in the morning or right at sunset when they come back out to feed. So that's a wildlife area that I'm flying over right now. We're headed back to the takeoff point. I will quit fooling with that gimbal. That's our lodge directly in front of us, and I'm on the back deck right there. So we're going to head back there and see if we can bring this puppy in for a landing. This was the third flight in a series on the same day, testing out the new firmware. The description I already gave you. The last firmware, the 0.168, and the other firmware seemed to have a little bit of a glitch in it. So They say that they've fixed that and they've done some work on the memory card speed. So, you know, it will need a faster memory card than people were sticking in it before. Instead of a U1, I think you need a U3 memory card now. So that's all well and done. I have no problem with that at all. Like I said, a little bit of glitchiness still. The signal to me hasn't improved at all. It's still the same, if not a little worse than it was before. But as you can see, I was breaking up there. You can't tell that, but I did lose signal just over these trees that close. So trees and the Mini 3 Pro are not friends. The leaves on the trees just absorb the signal off this thing like there's no tomorrow. I see a lot of guys are doing modifications on the controllers now, adding external antennas, increasing the power output, you know, and all that stuff, which cause a lot of problems. But getting some good reports off signal strength on that. I think it's a combination of the antenna problem, signal strength as far as the OcuSync 3, and the antenna problem, I think, in the Mini 3 Pro itself, the position of the antenna wires and stuff. I think it's a combination of all of that is why it's not getting the range that everybody thought it would be. And some people are getting fantastic range. I've seen guys out on YouTube getting 15, 17, 20,000 feet off the thing, but there's no way I could get anywhere near that. Basically half of that if I was lucky in a very, very rural area. But good enough for me, that's for sure. You know, if I want some distance, I get the Mini 2 out. She does much better than the Mini 3 Pro on distance. I would like to have a Mavic Air 2. I don't know what kind of distance that gets. I know the flight time is not as good, but not near as good. That's one thing about the Mini 3 Pro with the extra battery. Now, I've got the regular battery in on this flight, but the 2 flights previous to this, I had the Fly More battery in, the Plus battery, and I'm getting 33, 34 minutes, maybe a little bit more out of that battery to where this normal battery I'm getting in the low to mid 20s out of it. So if you got something where you think you're going to be out for an extended period of time, I think, you know, that's the way to go, even though they're way overpriced for what you get in that Fly More kit. The extra battery time can be helpful, especially if you've got a large flight ahead of you, you know, that you've got a lot of things planned out. Otherwise, bring it back in, park it, throw a new battery in it, take it back off, and do your work in post-production. So here I am on the back deck of the lodge. Whoever that stranger is there. You see this lodge, the whole thing is all metal roof, so it causes havoc with any kind of Bluetooth or Wi-Fi signal at all. Don't get near that thing, because if you're inside it, you're not getting Wi-Fi and you're not getting Bluetooth, you're not getting anything. But outside, it's not too bad as long as you don't get underneath one of them eaves. So we'll bring her back on down here and land her. Didn't have any problems with this at all other than a few little connection glitches, probably because of the trees. So I would say she's doing pretty good with the new firmware update. Stay safe, fly safe if you fly. If not, just be safe and treat each other like you want to be treated. Thanks. We'll see you again soon.